What we're going to talk about today is the art of moving from applicable list to living compliance and using AI to really create that applicable list of yours and keeping it dynamic and audit ready. I have also some very, very interesting news for you that I would like to share with you exclusively for this group, but I'll do that at the end of this session. So let's have a look at what's on the blackboard today. And we keep on repeating this because it's so important that if you have a product that is manufactured or distributed throughout the European market, and I would say not only the European Union market, it also goes for UK, Switzerland, Norway, and so forth, and I would say all the EES countries and all the candidate countries as well, you need to maintain a justified version control and up-to-date list of applicable regulations and standards, which we have LARS short for, which is a very common Swedish name and also used in, I guess, Frozen, right? I think the pal of Olaf is named Lars. Maybe it's the reindeer. I can't remember. A long time seeing it. There's a third Frozen coming out next year. If you like that movie, I love it. So that list of yours is not a mashup of all the regulations required for all of your products and your company. You need to have it divided per product, right? And because you're getting CE markings per product, not your portfolio. And you also need to have one for your company. So there are two contexts of the applicable list, right? So, and this is not optional, really. It's the backbone of compliance. Do not erase. And why so? Well, there's a couple of reasons why you need it. And oh yeah, auditors are required to see applicable guidances. Those are not legally binding documents. They are not, but they are. You will have findings at your audits if you do not have the applicable guidances, and they are many. In Europe, if you're a life science company, let's say you have a combination product, there's 122 regulations that could be applicable. 122 regulations that could be applicable. Because it's not only what parts of MDR or IVDR and so forth, or typical medical device and IVD or pharmaceuticals or biotechnology drugs, those typical regulations that should be in this list. It's also all the cross-domain regulations. And it covers, niche situations such as whether you might transport radioactive material. And so forth. They need to be listed in here. And then if we take all the guidances on top of that, only for GDPR, I think there's 62 guidances that potentially could be applicable. So the mass of information is insane, right? And the number of guidances, they are many. And hence, since the mass of information is huge, it is tricky to both create and maintain these kinds of lists. But they are your Bible. Once you have them properly created and maintained, they keep the answers to a lot of things. So what is this requirement? Well, first of all, you maintain a list of applicable requirements. I've said that a couple of times. I would also like to include that you should, to get a golden star at an audit and for your own well-being and operational needs, you should also include notified body position papers. It must be justified, so why each item is included or excluded, which means the rationale related to an applicable regulation or whatever document, and also the rationale whether you've decided that it's non-applicable. My recommendation is also to have a set of regulations that are just considered, but there are no applicable or non-applicable in your list, but they were considered but dismissed just for defensible reasons. That kind of proves that you did your homework properly. And think about it, when the third party reads something, if you have a selection of 122 potential regulations and you listed 15 of them as applicable and 10 as non-applicable, that person that reviews that has no idea whether you checked 122 or just those in total 25. But if you can show proof of concept that you've more or less went through all of those 122 regulations, you're good to go. So that was the justified part. And then we have the up-to-date part. So it has to be continuously monitored. It's not a one-off exercise because it changes, right? There's updates pretty much every week. When we look at all of those 122 potential regulations, and I guess in total, maybe 1,500 guidances for European Union alone, then there's the same thing for North America, Middle East, and Asian markets, China, and so forth. It's pretty much the same drill, right? But they need to be updated, and for all of those documents, I would say that most likely there's like 5 updates per week that potentially might have impact on your compliance situation. You need to know about them. You need to, make a decision whether they have impact or not. You have to prove in your applicable list that you view them and decided whether they are of non-compliance relation to your product, high, severe, and so on, and what you're going to do. So it must be version control, of course. So every change log, decision, and rationale is recorded. So if you change the design of the product, the rationale change, and maybe even what is applicable and what is not changes, and that change has to be logged, of course. So when does it kick in? So that was why is it needed? Well, if we look at MDR and IVDR Article 10.9 Annex 2.4, it's mandatory CE marking of devices and IVDs. It doesn't spell out this exactly that, hey, you need this and that and that. But if you read it through and thinking about what it says, clearly makes sense that an applicable list of all the requirements for your product and your company has to be fulfilled for CE marking. And then you find a similar thing in FDA, QMSR, all medtech products and IVD products, same thing. ISO 13485 applies for all organizations certified, global baseline. So it's kind of hard to get away without this for compliance reasons, and it applies throughout the entire life cycle. You need this already at the design phase, right? Because it's the backbone of your regulatory path, and it will help you a lot. If you start out this, pretty much one of the first things you do, you will have it with you. The reason why people don't do that is it's very cumbersome and hard to maintain. Easy to make a mistake, time consuming, and so forth. But there are salvations and solutions for that. Bear with me. So when is it checked? When do you use it? Well, audits, that's for sure. Notified bodies and FDA inspections. Whenever there is a TD review, before and after the and during the CE certification. Whenever you run a submission for a market entry renewal or variations. And of course, the fourth one, what I think is very often forgotten, operations, right? You really don't want to use compliance, this part of the compliance, into whack-a-mole firefighting. You need this, as I said in the beginning, your kind of Bible, it's your go-to source. Whenever you have a question from operations, you have that list. And you can certainly find a lot of answers in there. And it could provide the guidance. I'm not talking about guidances document, but your internal guidances on what to do and what not to do. So now you heard me talking for quite some time, and I would like to ask you one question, and that is how you manage your applicable requirements today. And there's a couple of alternatives that you can choose from. Maybe you use Excel and spreadsheets. Maybe you run this in a QMS system. Maybe you have a dedicated tool and platform already. Maybe you rely upon consultants, or 5, you don't really do that, and 6 others. Please go ahead and use the chat and just enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or a combination of those. And don't be afraid, I will not reveal who submitted what. So don't be scared to run a Fiverr. I will never tell anyone, but our sales force, they will call you. Okay, I will check the results coming in here. There's a lot of 1s and 2s. Please go ahead and tell me what you do. Very good. I think as of now, we have 1 in top, Excel spreadsheets, followed by 2 QMS system. And let me check here what else we have. And some use their QMS as well. Some have dedicated tools. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. The clear winner would be Excel spreadsheets, and I'm not surprised. That is what usually, that's the most common way of using it. And I also think that we share the same experience, that it is spreadsheets is very good, but you should not have your applicable list in spreadable sheets. That will make the auditor very, very confused. But spreadsheets is a fantastic tool, right? It's a very versatile Swiss Army knife tool. You can use it for a lot of things. But for an applicable list, not very good, because it easily breaks. It's I think that not very far from now, it will not be accepted as a format to run your applicable list, just as bookkeeping and so on is not allowed to run in Excel any longer, because it's so easy to fake the audit trail and the logs. You do, when you run the log and system doesn't really, then that is an issue, right? But it's human being is not really designed to read from spreadsheets. It's a container, cell container of data that you should create forms for. And then human beings invented that we can also enter text in there, a lot of texts in cells and columns and rows, which it's really not the purpose of the program. And then you create some functions and they break. Someone else designed the spreadsheet from the very beginning, and you might hate it, and so on. So it comes with a lot of problems, and we'll get back to that. But sure, it's fine, but it comes with a risk. And good that some uses it in QMS tools. I haven't seen a proper solution really, though. Most often what I see is that there's a downloaded PDF into a QMS system, and then sometimes I see a list version in the QMS, some homebrew view, which is also okay, but it's comes with a risk, and it's a little bit cumbersome to maintain. And I hope you all agree with me. Anyone who disagrees and would say that Excel and spreadsheets, I'm saying spreadsheets a lot today. Spreadsheets, it's the best thing since sliced bread. Please go ahead and challenge me. I'm open for that. Just enter in the chat. Okay, let's move on. So what happens when requirements aren't fully captured? I hope you have not experienced this. I'll give you a few examples. Here we have a situation where a Swedish company, XVivo, they had a consultation process, and they wanted to have a CE approval for hardware, but they ran into almost a full year delay, and there was some additional scientific option required. And this was this should have been recognized if they knew exactly what was on their applicable list in details, what they needed to do in order to submit the proper approval, proper submission for CE approval. Now, what happened is that patient had to wait, market access lost, and their stock price went down by 35%. So we're talking millions of euros due to the fact that they didn't have, and what you can create from a perfectly designed applicable list is checklists, right? Okay, this is what we have to comply with. Now, whenever we run an approval for a approval, we need to generate checklist. And again, your applicable list of regulation should be your backbone to generate that. I'll let you know how sooner. Here's another example, Philips Respironics. I guess you know this one. And this was happen when you don't realize the cross-domain regulations. You focus way too much on MDR or IVDR and so on. And yeah, sure, they are tricky, but these ones are equally important. You're probably aware of what's going on with REACH for next year. If not, check it up. So they had global recalls after foam degradation, so failure to anticipate chemical and biocompatibility requirements, which forced them billions in cost and patient harm and reputational damage. So shows the risk of not fully anticipating consultation requirements in advance, shows the cost of not capturing cross-domain requirements, material, chemicals, and biocompatibility. And these things can be avoided, bulletproof, if you have that list done properly and in a format so you can use it operationally as well. Another thing that I often see, we'll get into the reasons why this keep happening, and maybe it's in here. Yeah, root causes and danger zones. So unjustified applicability. So items included or excluded without proper rationale. I wouldn't say without rationale, because if that happens, you're really on thin ice. And then you have guidances omitted. So auditors expect them. I think I've said this enough already. Static spreadsheet, no version control, updates missed, rationale lost, copy and paste error. You know, when you made a copy, you copied something from a text, and you pressed Command V or Control V to paste it in, but for some reason it didn't happen, and you were stressed as usual, and you didn't see that the new text that was supposed to enter up in that cell didn't go there. And once you leave that document, you will never recognize that mistake until it's too late. And the one-off mindset, treat it as a document, not the living compliance process. Let's see here. Yeah, market copy paste. Market copy paste. So I also see a lot of companies that uses MDR, for example, reused for UK or Switzerland or national rules, and they don't care about the deviations, or I bet they care, but they haven't realized how many they might be. So there are deviations between any member state and the EU MDR versions, but it would be more than the MDR, of course, and IVDR. If you look at all of those 121 regulations and directives, there are deviations internally in the between the member states. So a regulation might have been completely differently implemented in France versus Finland, and they have the rights to do so at some extent, right? It's never really 100 or 360-degree implementation. Like yeah, sure, we have implemented MDR in Finland, but it works completely different. No, that is not the fact, but it's those nuances and sometimes actually major deviations that you have to be aware of. Another thing that I've realized recently, and that is actually a root cause, is that the narrative or all the copy that is being used in applicable lists, that's for regulatory affairs only. But hey, there's a lot of people in your companies that needs to understand what's in your applicable list, right? So that they can understand, okay, so for MDR, these and these sections are the ones that we need to comply with for our unique device. What does that mean for marketing? What does that mean for quality? What does that mean for finance? What does that mean for clinical? And I think it's a good idea for anyone who's within regulatory affairs to think about not only what you put in your applicable list, or well, probably this goes for communications in general, but also think of it, how does the various kind of receiver groups internally need to get this information? What is the type of phrasings and examples that I need to provide sales and marketing, quality, clinical, and so forth, in order for them to understand this fully? I strongly advise you to do that, because it makes changes, and it will avoid miscommunications or misinterpretations of what your intention was when sending out the information. Okay, we could talk about that for hours. I hope you agree with me. If you haven't tried, we're going to talk about AI, of course. One, AI is a language model, period, with a reasoning model on top of that, right? So whatever AI model that you use, no matter if it's Gemini or ChatGPT or Copilot, at the bottom, this is a language model that guesses the best autocomplete of your question, and it turns the autocomplete into a answer or a reply, and with further suggestions, right? And on top of that, before it provides that, it runs a reasoning model, which is the neural system, more or less. It goes for a memory, and it starts to reason with itself whether this or not would be logical, fit the context, and so forth. And the reasoning modeling becomes better and better every day. I think you noticed that. But where I'm going with this is that since they are language models and linguistic models, you can ask any of those AI agents to provide you a copy of a message that you would like to send, so that it suits the receiver, because they understand the narrative, or AI understands the narrative of quality, sales and marketing, and so on, and can help you rephrase that, because it's not that simple. We don't know. I don't know exactly how marketing and sales behave. And then there are cultural differences as well. A marketing and sales organization in India require or prefer communication in a very different format compared to a marketing and sales organization in Finland or in the United States of America or in Mexico. So cultural changes and cultural differences and segment differences, they are important to address. When making use of, this is a long shot, when making use of findings in your applicable list of regulations, standards, and guidance. Okay, so which gave me a good way into AI here. So let's roll back a little bit then and say that how to use AI and how not to use AI. First off, do not ever believe that you can use general GPT models to achieve good results. You can if you're lucky, but I know that at least 85% of you who attend today has tried AI, most likely 100%. The problem with AI, besides that it might hallucinate, it might provide biased answers due to the fact that it is a reasoning model on top of a language model. But it's also a general model. So it knows everything. You can ask it whether for a recipe on how to bake a certain kind of bread, and you can ask it about regulatory questions and so on. It provides answers. That's a great benefit, but also high risk, because it also has a general reasoning model. So it has a hard time to define what kind of context you're talking about, really, if you don't provide it a huge amount of information all the time. And the longer those threads goes in your chats, the more often you might realize that it goes slower and slower, and it has a harder and harder time to really understand where you're at, and sometimes it just goes way off. And that's due to the fact that it's general. You haven't scoped it in, right? So avoid that. That will save you a lot of headache and frustration. Okay, that was supposed to be, yeah, this is a general, and what I'm going to talk about now is a custom model. So what you can do with a custom model, there are two ways. Either you use a tool that is designed and has become a custom model. So it's kind of framed into, okay, here this AI only talks about regulations. Global maybe, Europe maybe, doesn't matter, but it's framed into that. Or you can create a project in Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT and provide clear instructions on what any chat can be about, never ever something else. And that is a very important limitation to provide AI, to scope it in. A lot of people has not realized that. That's why I mentioned it. Maybe you have. All right, yeah, this I already mentioned. So they are language model, end of story. But they are trained on a massive amount of text to predict the next word in the sentence, right? And this means you get a fluent, often very convincing answer, but in reality, it is the most logical guess. But it's delivered in a way so that you find it extremely intelligent from time to time. It's like having a friend that has read every book on earth and remembers them. That's what it is. But what happens with that person, no matter if it's an AI or if there actually was a person that has read every book on earth and remembered them, is that they have an insanely broad data set. And the broader the knowledge base, the risk grows that the model will miss your context. So for example, MDR Annex 2 or ICO 13485, paragraph 413, if you forgot to specify that, they will interpret your question in a way that doesn't fit your actual need. So you have to be extremely detailed in everything you do. And sometimes you don't know. And then that's where AI might fail. So context is everything. Now, use tools built on validated, maybe not built on validated regulatory sources, but that contains validated regulatory sources. AI should only know what it's told to. So, for example, these regulations, and not go beyond that. And that is the same principle as a custom GPT. You define the scope and keep it constrained. That's kind of training it, or programming it is probably better phrasing. Work only with AI connected to official regulations and standards. If it's not connected to the model, if it's not enough for the model to know regulations in theory, it must be able to retrieve and display information from the actual validated sources. Without this, there's no traceability or audit defensibility. It's just the guesswork. So that's search. And then create custom GPTs trained for your own company product data. So this this is probably most likely a mix of 1 and 2, and you can train a custom GPT on your product documentation and regulations, etc. Be careful and check your policies internally whether you may upload those kind of documentations or not. It's sensitive, but it's a way to experiment and see how AI becomes more relevant for your specific context, even outside tools like Houdin that handles that automatically. The mix experiment. It's a good learning path, really. And of course, finally, the most important thing, always combine AI with your own and your peers' expertise. That's very important to mention at any time. So what I'm going to do now is to talk about a little bit about the program that we have, and I really hope you will give a shot. It's an online course. It's an evergreen course. You can start it whenever, but you must finish it within 14 days. I'll tell you why. But it only takes in total 2 hours. And what I like with this program, it's not a see, listen, take notes program. You don't learn that way. There's no point in doing that. And just leaving this webinar by just listening to me, you will have forgotten within 48 hours. No point in that. Your time that you spent now, these 45 minutes, was completely wasted unless you don't invest an additional 2 hours. That where it will really pull off. So it's a hands-on program where you will do this on your own product or your own company within 2 hours. You will have super good understanding about how to use these tools properly. So what you're going to do in that program is that you will have AI-assisted training to structure and justify MDR documentation or IVDR, step-by-step guidance, hands-on exercises using your own documentation, not templates. And when I say, or when it states own documentation, it doesn't intend your technical file and so forth. It means rather your own, you're building your own version from a template, you're not creating the template per se, okay? You will use proven AI prompts and methods to avoid missteps and errors. Tools like Houdin and ChatGPT, how to use them to accelerate traceability and reporting. Instant access to 3 focused modules, no scheduling, no webinars. There are videos that you can check. Whoops, that was too fast. Okay, now we have to see the animations again. I'm sorry. I'll do this fast. So within this, you will have a 14-day free trial of Houdin. You will have provided links to additional AI tools that we recommend, and also tools that we do not recommend. We do not recommend you to use DeepSeek, for example, which is a very, very good Chinese AI model, but it is censored, and any AI that is censored, you should use with caution, because it says itself that you never know what is being censored. Is it only about sensitive stuff for the Chinese government, or is it also information that they think is of true benefit or harm for you? I don't know. I would simply not use it, which is a shame because it's a really good model. I follow we follow and we try out AI models all the time because we use them so much in Houdin. And currently, usually up until recently, OpenAI and ChatGPT version 5.1 has been the superior model overall. But what happened 2 weeks ago was that Google really went from poor to fantastic. Gemini, in my opinion, has been the worst of them. Well, I'm not even mentioning Meta's AI or Gronk because they are just awful. Don't use them. You can use them for personal reasons if you like, but in this context, avoid completely. But what happened with Gemini was that they took a jump a leap from troubled to fantastic, and I would say that it is better than ChatGPT and Copilot at the moment. So I recommend you to give it a try if you haven't done it recently. That leaves us with the final part, which is questions and answers. And please write in the chat if you have any questions, and I will go ahead and answer them. No questions? Are you sure? There's a function down in this Google Meet platform when you can, in the middle, it's send a reaction. How many of you will give the program a shot? You give me a thumbs up. Good. Well, good for you two, but the rest of you, I'm a little bit concerned. Please, training will be available from now. Yes. I will send you the link, or everyone who attended today will get an email with links to the program and everything. And it's completely free of charge, of course. It's a 2-hour program. I would say I would schedule like 1 + 1 hour, no more, no less, and you will be just fine. And we're available, so if you have any questions, just please reach out. Now, I saved the best till the last. And as an exclusive offering to you guys, I'm going to give you early bird access to the new version of Houdin. But first, there is a hand raised from Ramesh. Do you have a question? Please write in the chat if you do. Okay. So I hope you will find this good. Just a second, I'm going to switch presentation. I'm just going to show you a little glimpse of what's coming, and also invite you for early bird access testers. Oh, here's a question. Let's do it this way. I'm going to answer your question in just a second. I usually have 2 screens, but today I do not, so I have to hop around a little bit. Okay, question first. Juha, some needs to comply with standards. Some needs to comply with standards come from risk analysis. How does Houdin know what manufacturer risk analysis contains? Well, Houdin never really just knows. It's based upon a, I wouldn't say a dialogue, but you build up a product profile, right? So you enter a product that you would like to build your lists upon, and then you provide that profile with metadata related to the product. And from that metadata, 2 things happen. The system can match validated regulations, guidances, and standards that most likely would be applicable for your product. So from that metadata, the risk analysis could be handled, but you can also run this with a dialogue with the AIs. But that comes for the new version of Houdin that I'm going to present now, and that you can sign up for as early birds. You will have a link for that in the email that will come out to you as well. Just a quick preview. So we're going to launch something called the Compliance Studio. It's a completely new platform that we've been working on for years. And we call it your compliance genome, really. It's an AI system that turns validated global regulations and standard into your living compliance blueprint. So you can, it comes with, yeah, let's stay here. It comes with pre-trained and custom AI agents. They are trained as regulatory experts, guidance experts, and standard experts. And from here, you build your applicable lists. So imagine now that you would have your list that the AI agents will help you compile, or you upload your current versions. I would recommend that you build up your version here in the Compliance Studio, and then just compare against your current version. And then when you're all good, you take that Excel spread of yours and burn it and stay with Hooden. Because what you will get here is just not only the lists, but you will get suggestions on perfectly phrased rationals according to how best practices is currently. You will get all updates automated. So whenever there is an update for whatever country, you can build countries for a list for any product, any country on earth, except Russia and Belarus and North Korea. But if you need a list for EU, Finland, France, Turkey, China, Australia, Argentina, US, whatever, fine, go ahead. You will have a separate list for each. And then whenever you need to access the regulatory expert, you can do it right away from the agent or from a regulation and discuss a certain part of a regulation with the expert. Save that dialogue, use it as a reference in the list. When there is an update, the agent who knows so much about your specific device based upon all the metadata, what risk class, the intended use, indication, critical components, if it's in contact with human tissue or blood, if it contains hazardous chemicals, what kind of waste it's generated, etc., everything. Which means that it could figure out whether this update has implication on your current compliance situation or not, and provide you with a suggestion. You, as a user, will always be the one that decides whether that update has an implication or not, but it will help you so much from looking for it, making your own interpretations and so on. And you can always have this dialogue with this custom and certainly well-trained AI agents. So this is just a quick preview. The launch will happen early next year, but you're gonna get early access if you'd like to, completely free of charge, of course. There will be a freemium version, there will be a paid-for version, and you decide which one you would go with if you'd like to stay after the early bird access as well. You will have instructions on how to sign up for that in the email coming after this webinar. Questions, by the way, as we are on air, I'll be more than happy to get some early feedback or thoughts on that on that new. Erica has a question. So we are informed when a change is made in the list. That is right. How? By mail. So a change in the list, I assume you mean an update, right? Regulatory update or a new standard or what's not. You will get a notification in the system, and most likely you would get a yeah. Thank you, Erica. You will get a notification in the system, and if the since it looks through a massive amount of update. You know, what is an update? The definition of an update. It's not only amendments or severe changes. It could be so that it's pre-meeting in the European Union or within the European Commission discussing that IVDR should be lightened up in some sections. That may or may not have a huge potential impact on your compliance situation, a big relief maybe, or a big change, but only for you, because this goes for, you know, IVD products that is risk class 2B maybe. So if the AI recognize that this might potentially have a severe impact on your compliance situation, you will receive an email. If it's just an update that mentions and clearly do not have a current implication, you will not get an email. Otherwise, you would have a lot of emails. So something like that. And in the future, you will be able to tune that in. So maybe you want to have a digest over the week and so on. But yes, you will get informed. You're always the one that makes the final call whether this has impact or not. Any other questions or comments or feedbacks on this? Does it look cool? I hope so. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. It does look cool and interesting. Thank you, Hajar. I'm happy to read that. Thank you for attending today, and I wish you the best during the program. I hope you signed up for Early Bird. It would be awesome to have you on. The only thing we ask for in return is actually some feedback after you tried it out, and we will be more than happy to receive that. So I wish you take the program, and I wish you a great experience from that and good learnings. And I also wish you a really Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, because this is the last the last one that we will run before Christmas. Or maybe there is a follow-up scheduled. I don't know. Well, either way, I ask you a Merry Christmas anyways, in case we don't see each other. So thank you so much, and I wish you a lovely and pleasant Tuesday. Take care. Bye.